Welcome to PlotLines, where we'll use our over 30 years of experience in real estate communications to uncover the real stories behind real estate. I'm Heather Crowell.
And I'm Britni Acriveau. Dive in with us as we invite guests to break down the ever-changing landscapes of real estate together. All right, welcome back to PlotLines, a podcast all about rewriting headlines in the real estate space. This is actually our final episode of season 2, which is really exciting. And we have with us here today Katy Lincoln, the founder and owner of Lincoln Holdings. Katy, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. We're glad to have you as well. So let's just kick things off. Tell us about yourself, your background, and your company.
Sure. I'm Katy Lincoln. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. I've worked in real estate for 13 years. I started at a regional firm here. I moved to CBRE, spent about 8 years there doing a lot of office and retail and all property types throughout the state. And about 4 years ago, I was recruited by a healthcare real estate developer and went to work with that group and spent 3 years there, really just in the throes of only healthcare deals and learning the development side of things, but also, I have a lot of investment finance background. So I was putting together some acquisitions of existing product MOBs, did 5 deals with that partnership. And then first of the year of 24, so about a year ago, I started my own firm where I continue to do acquisitions for healthcare real estate and also some brokerage work locally, more on the leasing side for landlords. But I have, for at least for the past several years, have been working only really in the healthcare sector.
Interesting. Awesome. And I have to ask, were you a news producer at some point in your career as well?
That was my first life, my first career. My undergrad major was broadcast news, and I had a second major in musical theater.
Okay, no way.
When you work in news, your first job is like in the middle of nowhere if you want to be on air.
Right.
I got a really good offer in Nashville to be a producer.
Oh, fun.
And so definitely took that to get to a better market, but my shift was midnight to 9 a.m. I worked.
That's
it was just, and then I would, do the open mic scene in Nashville and did all of that for a year. And then I was like, wow, I don't know if this is how the real world works. So I went back to school, got my MBA and found commercial real estate. So
cool. Yeah, that's an interesting journey.
Very fun experience, but seems to fit better with the long-term plan.
Yeah. No, that's such a unique journe.
Yeah.
Okay, so given your background or your recent background in healthcare real estate, I think we'd love to dig into that. We haven't talked much about it on the show. So some of the headlines recently, like healthcare real estate has become highly visible and seems to be in demand, right? As demand for healthcare services have increased. So, some of the headlines we're seeing are that it's like a top choice for investors or construction is expected to soar. So love to hear your take on where the asset class is headed as we kick off 2025.
Sure. It's become sort of this golden child, I think. A lot of people are fleeing to healthcare because office, we don't know when, if ever, we're going to fully recover from work from home and all the space that was, vacated. Retail has tried to adapt, but there's been so much downsizing and so much evolution that's, been a little bit more difficult. And industrial, it's like we had this huge ramp up and then probably ended up with too much of a ramp up. And, there's some space issues there. Yeah. Healthcare, on the other hand, has continued to grow steadily and stable. And aging population, like you mentioned, just the increased need for care, the increased awareness of proactive care. So not just, responding, but the weight loss and the wellness and the focus that I think is getting to be more and more prevalent is just really shifting the demand, and we don't have a lot of space. So there is some supply and demand issue. The cost of construction, new space, which I'm sure we'll get into, is so high that there's some really solid investment opportunities. And I think we're set up, for a really solid ride here over the next 5 to 10 years in the sector.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you hit on some already, obviously construction costs and things like that, but break down for us some of the challenges in this space and then what some of those opportunities look like going forward.
The cost to construct is in every sector. It's definitely affecting healthcare for new space because
Okay,
the build out is more intricate. You've got a lot of plumbing needs. You've got heavy build out. You've got
Sure,
millwork. It's not like a wide open, cubicle type space in an office building. So, and the capacity for your plumbing and your electrical needs, your parking demands, it's just a lot more of an intricate process. And therefore the cost that's already high is even in health.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a challenge. There's a lot of systems that, a while back, maybe you would convert a building, but you're like, we're going to spend more to convert this building or bring for renovate than we would to just go start from scratch.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's just not the case. So now a lot of people are having to get adaptive and realize that it's so expensive to build new. What can we do with the facilities we have, or how can we get creative and convert a retail or office? So you're certainly seeing a lot of that. And, there's just a little bit of challenges, I think, in every sector right now with debt. In terms of the capital market side, where's the debt rates and where's the cap rates, and how can we start shaking loose some deals, which I think is getting better, but still a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So which subsectors of healthcare real estate are you seeing the most investor interest in?
Yeah. So, personally, and out of Birmingham, I work with mostly friends and family investors, and we have a roster of kind of local money that is interested in the space. And what we're looking for is medical office buildings. We would look at something with little surgery and ASC, whether that's a single specialty or a multi-specialty surgery center, or even a freestanding emergency department where you've got a hospital system on the hook as a tenant, and you've got a long-term lease with that in place. That's me personally where I, kind of the sandbox I play in. There are a lot of investors, I think, in that pool. You have some that have a little more appetite for a different level of risk, and they're looking at the inpatient rehab and the behavioral rehab. Skilled nursing and seniors is a little bit of a different beast all in itself, but similar to that, and that you can buy deals at a higher cap rate in those spaces, but you're also taking on a different level of risk because dealing with operations. So I would say interest has picked up in all of the areas, but there's definitely, you need to make sure whoever you're investing with, or whoever you're, if you're a tenant going into a space, whoever your landlord is, really understands the difference in the types and understand where their risk profile fits in, because it's not what one size fits all.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad asset class.
Definitely. Yeah. So we've hit on location a few times, and sort of this idea of conversion or purpose built. Like where do these facilities want to be? Do they want to be in a retail center that's popular? Do they want single pad sites on their own? I mean, talk to us a little bit about the location demands, and again, whether it's conversion or new construction. What does that look like?
Yeah, there's certain specialties and certain groups kind of have different requirements, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent that you've got a lot of parallels to what you look for a retail site. You want the visibility, you want the easy access, you want the signage, parking, you definitely want the parking, and I mean, so it goes so far as to say, how close is the parking to the door? Because maybe you have elderly patients that can't walk, across a huge bay of parking, or if that is there, you need to have some valet cover drop options or different things like that. So, physical aspects of the site, to just the capacity for the plumbing and electricity. If you're converting an older building, can it support the needs of a medical tenant? Are all things to look at. So it makes it a little bit hard to find those sites that really can, fit the bill for conversion. I love a conversion deal, but it's got to be the right fit. And for new sites, the sites are usually more expensive. You can't go in. I mean, some people are trying to convert buildings in the back of an office park. A little bit harder unless you've got kind of a master redevelopment plan for the whole area to do that. So those buildings to me don't get as much traction. It's more of your forward facing on the highway type sites. But with that comes, again, the cost of the dirt. So not only are we having higher construction costs, we're having higher site costs where the new development kind of comes into play. becomes a little more challenging.
Yeah. And we had a guest who came on and talked to us about veterinary real estate.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he talked a lot about, this idea that people don't want to go to like an old house anymore for their veterinary care.
Yeah.
And people now want state-of-the-art facilities, that are keeping up with innovation and technology. Yep. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that on the more traditional healthcare side too, right?
Yeah. Same kind of thing. People want modernized space, and at the same time, the rent differential between that house type product where they're paying $12 a foot compared to, and sometimes that's full service, and
right,
so low. And then the practice is trying to look at their options for new space, and they're looking at $40 plus, triple net. It's trying to figure out how we bridge this gap, but there certainly is. There's a middle ground that I think that's a really sweet spot for investing. And that's, what I'm keeping my eye out for. That's certainly a trend to have more modernized functional space.
Right. Yeah. So I think I'm hearing that there's a lot of different options location wise, right? There's retail centers, there's new construction, there's renovating, there's adaptive reuse. And I think also maybe a shortage of space is sort of an underlying theme. What do you think, what does it take for that new construction pipeline to start kicking in again? Is that just interest rates and construction costs, or is there more to it than that? Are there zoning issues typically you run into, or
right? I think
what's
there's
the mix?
A few sites. There's select sites. There's some people that have very specific requirements, and that's our only option. So some of those deals are going to shake loose, and I think that will happen. But for the most part, I think until you have someone, getting in the heyday of let's just put up MOBs everywhere, and we're nowhere close to that. We've got to have some market rent growth of this existing product space.
Okay.
So we've got to catch up, and I think that's going to take several years. Again, why I think that's a pretty good space to be in right now. If it's not obsolete space, if it is still pretty functional, maybe it needs some renovations, but it's got the bones in place and something to work with. You've got those tenants. It's just going to naturally lend to market rent growth because, again, with supply and demand. In my opinion, we've got to have that happen before we can really start building a lot of new stuff.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that all being said, though, I think healthcare real estate still has a reputation of being very recession resilient. Would you agree with that? And what are some of those factors that still make it such a strong asset class to invest in?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that COVID was our perfect case study to realize that sectors, in the throes of the pandemic, healthcare still did well. And some of those surgeries were like elective surgeries may have gotten pushed back, but we still had a need, obviously in other arenas. So that was a good test where we continued to perform well, but even in downturns and financial recessions, there were still people need the care, and it's not going anywhere. I think that it stands up pretty strong compared to other asset classes.
Yeah. Okay. So just like global trend wise, how are like the M&A that's occurring in healthcare and technology that's really reshaping every business? How are those factors like that affecting healthcare real estate?
Yes. There's the private equity in healthcare and practices is a conversation because there's a lot we're losing a lot of these independent physician groups because they get to a point where
hospital systems are buying them.
Yeah, they kind of have to turn to that, I think. From a revenue perspective, but that's certainly changing the game a little bit. And then if you're a landlord, some of those groups are growing really, really fast. And are they going to be able to support that growth? Is that the tenant you want on the hook? It's just becomes diligence becomes even more important to vet who's actually signing the lease is one factor. But then, just talking about the mergers and acquisitions, Birmingham's uniquely seeing a lot of that right now. So we had Orlando Health came in and purchased Brookwood Baptist from Tenant Health. So our major hospitals is now Orlando Health, and they've rebranded Baptist Health, and they've got a lot of money to put into our market. UAB, which is our biggest hospital system, just acquired St. Vincent's from Ascension. And so, now, our other big competitor has become UAB. Grandview is our big hospital here that's growing. So we've had, a lot of just within the city, and we're still kind of waiting to see where this is going to shake out. But there's been some consolidation of facilities. So now that UAB owns both of these big hospitals downtown, maybe they don't have to build this new center anymore. Maybe they move some people over to this building. Now what do we do with the old space? There's a lot of those conversations are happening right now. But I think, where technology and needs come into it, we need some modernized space, but we also have to get creative on how we adapt this older space. And it's just the architects, I think, are really shining right now with some pretty cool ideas on that.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think that segues pretty well into our final question that circles back to where we started.
Okay.
We want to give you the opportunity to write the headline. What would you like to see out there about healthcare real estate?
So, I thought about this. I think that for me personally, the best headline would be debt market thaws for healthcare real estate investors. And we've got I think there are great deals and great opportunities. I think that the pricing, I would love to say, let's let the pricing kind of come down a little bit. Cap rates need to go up to shake these deals loose. All the reasons I said, I think that this is a low risk asset class. These are solid deals. Maybe they don't warrant a huge price reduction, but where the cap rates are, and where the debt is, we're too close to
That's
really
right.
be
There's
able
no
to do
spread.
deals. And if the lenders viewed the class maybe a little more attractively than where they would, I don't know that they want to flee to a multifamily deal right now, but I think a safe lending opportunity is healthcare real estate.
Right.
Sure.
And if we could get a little more aggressive on those lending terms, then we could start to move some deals. The owner occupants are getting favorable terms on the financing side.
Okay.
Physicians can get really favorable financing, but it's still a little bit across all property types, including healthcare, and investors are having, they're getting terms, but they're not great. So I think if that can kind of get a little more aggressive, that would be the headline I would love to see.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Well, Katy, is there anything we haven't covered that you think our listeners should know today?
I did think one more thing when we were talking about the question about adapting space and the changes that I wanted to mention. I had the chance yesterday to tour a new rehab center for UAB downtown, and the design has become so patient focused. So they really have the rehab gym. It's up on a upper level. It's an urban setting. You've got floor to ceiling windows, views, light. They've designed the space to where the glare doesn't affect the patients, and the floor absorbs the glare. So they're still having the natural light without maybe people who are light sensitive being affected. And they have a terrace for families to come so that they'll come see and stay. And just this design of being so patient focused. Your question earlier about the technology influencing the design, I don't see that as much as I see really this patient-centered design influencing everything that we do. And for a while I felt like patients, it was kind of like, this is what you get and put up with it. But there's
it's like kind of the most important thing in your life is your health.
But there's certainly a shift to that they're demanding, a different experience when they go to the doctor, and I think it's great to see that that's adapting. So I wanted to just mention that. I thought that was kind of neat to see yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting and super insightful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, Katy, thanks so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. It was really fun. Good to talk to you.
It was nice to meet you.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts